It's Friday, October 16th. And this is sort of a behind-the-scenes personal note. I got home from running errands and not being sure what to do, I put on some music. And a song I'd never heard before hit me really hard and in a very performative way, if that makes sense. I'm a trained theater professional that just doesn't have a theater around him or her at this time. But this piece of music just made me tap into two particular strains of theater performativity, which I would describe or label as performative theater movement / dance and clowning. To some people that might all sound very strange, and to some people that might sound quite normal. But I wanted to capture my thoughts about it because I intend to create it as a scene inside a piece of literature, because I don't know how far I would personally take it physically, but I want to write the comic book version of something happening based on what happened. And for the purposes of capturing the historical record of it, I wanted to notate exactly what actually happened. This song came on, and for the purposes of disclaimering, I don't have the right to play this song, or to record this song rather, or to profit on this song, and I don't intend to, but for the purposes of storytelling and in the sort of the aspirational sense that I hope it gets discovered and published, and that therefore in the process at all as normal would get the rights acquired for including in future reference any movie interpretation or stage production of the ideas behind this. All appropriate rights to all appropriate media and all appropriate songs. I insert that as disclaimer at all ad nauseum, for the project from this episode going backwards and forwards in time, as if it were at the very beginning and or at the very end also, which I might get around to editing into happening. My point being, I'd never heard the song before, but it played perfectly, and then a song I do know very well played perfectly, that my professional theater trained body apparatus of the kind that sort of secretly, there's a part of me, I will admit, dear friends and listeners, that secretly wishes I had jumped onto the TikTok bandwagon really early, because I heard about it and saw it as it came to the horizon of app things and the world of apps, because I look at media and stuff and read reviews in places and things about things upcoming and whatnot. And I, just like with YouTube, and I think I've rambled about this on the show before, but just like with YouTube, there's a part of me that wishes that I had just gone full bore with the sort of, if I may coin / borrow a term, with the sort of Clownzilla derivative performance art that my body is highly trained and capable of executing. As any actually well-trained dancer or theater professional will know, the instrument finds its own voice ultimately, right? And you trust the instrument is your body and its faculties, separate from whatever your ego personality construct and that which you call yourself by your name might be. I don't think that's too strange of a framework to talk about deep theatrical performative work. You train your body to dance, the body knows better than the sentence constructing narrative part of your mind. about dance because you trained in dance. Same with performance of any kind, especially if you really do train in front of an audience, because there's a sort of alchemical brainwave magic there, I personally believe. Or rather have experienced, right? Because as I honestly said to someone recently, in some conversations on some platform or another, they all emerge together because I treat them all equally as actual valid conversations, as if I just met you on the airplane or the bus or the dirigible, right? Like, or we were stuck in a submarine together and we had to talk. Belief is something I try not to believe in, and I sort of much prefer direct phenomenological experience. And as a theater professional trained in the craft of all that which you might call theater arts, I can assure you that with the right approach, you get to a very synergistic place where you trust your intuition and your faculties and your instrument, your body mechanism, as it were, in a way that's beyond words, that then supports you and prompts you and provides content. I think dancers especially would understand. But I don't know why I'm going off. I'm nerding out on this. Because it was a delight and it was a catharsis to go through, I suppose. I'm not broadcasting this live right now, am I? Nope. It's all right. I'll upload it soon. I kind of meant to, but then I didn't know what to title it, etc. So this song comes on, and I'm afraid to read the name of it because I don't want to get sued, is my point. And all my disclaimers, ever disclaimered on the show, apply here, most especially, because I put it in the YouTube Music app, which is separate from YouTube, which I love. And I'm a provider of content on YouTube. And I don't know what the rules are about playing things that are on YouTube on my YouTube channel, but I'm going to go with that's allowed, right? It should be, and I'll sue you if it's not. If you try to arrest me for it, whatever, I don't know. And I'm not doing it because I haven't, but I coulda, shoulda, woulda. If I already had, if I already married Sound of Music, Family Von Trapp style, and had my own ensemble of y'all family now, do as we decide to do together as an artistic performative ensemble troupe, we would have this finished product right now as we sit here at 9:35 p.m. But I don't, and I didn't, so it's not. But it's an idea, and I want to write it out as a short story first. And so this is my mental dump, which I'll just drop as a podcast right away. Don't steal this. All disclaimers apply. This is my original content. It's just collaborative. I put this song on a really short song list on the YouTube Music app. Because when I heard this song, and I'd never heard it before in my life, my body knew what to do I'm at a new age, not new age, that's the wrong term. I'm in a, fringy, cutting edge, whatever. I'm in a movement dance performance concert recital. And someone's, in a university college setting. What do we got? That's what we did, right? We went to college to figure out what we want to do with our lives, and then we either succeeded or failed at it. No judgment in neither direction on anybody, especially myself. Or all the judgment, especially on myself. But my apparatus is finely tuned and trained and lives its own independent life, I will attest to you. Separate from that which would be the persona narrating this autobiographical journal entry to you. And when it feels like it, the thing I call my clown, the entity within myself that is adjacent to my ego mind, and I don't use ego mind in that evil, horrible way, you gotta cut its face off bad, people, spiritual talk often misuse, and we'll put a pin in that because I have a whole lot to say about that. And I think I already have, and I might do so again in the future. But separate from that, because I think I've got that equally identified and communicating with in my internal field of experience. I give space and honor to this like aspect of myself performatively. That's sort of like a center of willpower. It's like if one of my chakras just got an attitude and was from Jersey with a top hat and a clown and a cartoon character, like from some cartoon universe, and a Broadway toured the world from like World War II. He's like some sort of archetype unto himself. Like he has this whole backstory, and now he's somehow still alive because he's an everlasting cartoon clown being in this, future. And so he's sort of like this silent movie, inspired from all the greats and my own training and work in a very serious clown technique and a clown performance ensemble troupe. That did indeed get to perform in various places that technically qualifies as having performed around the world because of its, multiple points in, different countries. But it wasn't ever like we didn't get discovered, we didn't make it big. We could have been some next level Blue Man Group type phenomena thing, I think, quite sincerely. And as I lovingly pretend to look up at the poster that I sitting in the hallway framed from back in the day, I framed it myself with my own tools and my own hands. The poster of this beloved clown troupe that inspired this whole comic book universe. I packed that all into the backstory of what this is, but this song in a way that I don't know, just brought me back experientially, phenomenologically. My body was sort of suddenly in that inspired, heightened, alertant place of studio work, as in being in the midst of a many weeks long rehearsal process, drilling and drilling and drilling to perfection some performative body of work that's going to be presented in front of an audience. And I wanted to dance this stationary, floating, imaginary, and I also imagined what video tricks I would play with it. And then while I'm my body is off in its own place, wiggling around, literally dancing to a song I've never heard before, and puppeteering. I don't know how else to describe it to you. It's as if my body, and I know that there's some. I tried to write a paper on this guy, and I think I trashed the paper and never submitted it. But there's a theater author that comes to mind, but whose name fails me right now, that speaks of the performer's apparatus, the performer's body, as a puppet to mystical forces. And I swear to you, there are times when, out of training and intuition combined, in a sort of trance-like way, my body just does performative things, and dances these silly dances and tells these stories with gesture and movement and lip syncing. I used to, I don't know, as a kid, I used to think that'd be something fun to do. I don't know, in those movies about stand-up comics where the kid ends up telling jokes in front of everybody at Thanksgiving dinner. Well, I used to always want to do weird performance numbers to popular songs on the radio. As a child, as a innocent, before I went to school, young person. And throughout my life as a professional in the theater industry, that whole sort of vision stuck with me, and it now sort of tickles me pink and also chaps my head a little, to borrow from the salsa commercial, that there's a whole platform where people are becoming super famous influencers by just dancing around and lip syncing to popular songs. And I'm I used to do that and I used to want to do that for a living. And there's actually a reality TV show, and I can't believe I've never applied for it, but there's a reality TV show, or there was at some point in reality TV land, where people just did that for money. And I'm like, oh God. But this song pulled it out of me. Like I hate to use the word because I'm not a professional choreographer, but there's a youthful aspect of my mind and my being that aspired to be that in a theater performative kind of way, like, Blue Man Group style, indescribable physical performance theater stuff. If only I had the funds and the facilities, the two F's, to indoctrinate and train and rehearse a company of excess of 80 people, I would blow people's minds with the kind of performance art that I have sitting in my head the way Einstein had physics sitting in his. Mine is infinitely less important. And ultimately, I doubt anyone's going to listen to my podcast and go, yes, I'll give you $2 million so you can start this company. Actually, it would probably take about, in all earnestness, if I were sitting in a real life meeting with someone that's like, I don't give a shit about numbers. Talk to me. What do you need? Make the dream come true from performances in Vegas to touring circuits, etc. What monies do you think you need me to drop right now? And I'll tell you. I'll laugh in your face and tell you what's feasible. I would happily take an investment of, $25 million and turn it into an empire of animation and comic books and performance art. But I digress. That's a ridiculous thing to put out there. But what are vision boards, if not the most ridiculous things we might put out there that we hope might suddenly become something that comes back to us? So, for the purposes of the storytelling of it, all of this is going on in my mind as I'm looking down at my body, emoting and dancing out this thing that I never choreographed before, that was perfect, and that I wished I had 3 different cameras set up, that I wished I had the pre-sight to be like, I better grab my iPad and my phone and that extra thing. I have this older phone that for some reason still will let me record video, and I figured out a way to extract it somehow by email it to myself or something, but I don't remember how. I couldn't describe it to you now. But all my recording devices out to record myself perform this silly MrZeppo, and I even imagined sort of tearing my face off with some sort of special effect to reveal the inner being inside myself, which is the layers of MrZeppo as a sort of archetype character that I have in my little weirdo universe of storytelling that I wish to knit together. But this song just rocked me, and it was beautiful. And it is beautiful, and it's really inspiring. And I'd be super wicked jealous if someone's already put it in a movie, or these guys don't understand. If someone hears this and they're like, "What are you talking about?" No, you can't do that with our song. Whoever this is, and it's right there because I put this and the next song that played on a playlist, because literally, if I had the budget to just buy the rights to go perform this in a variety show or whatever context, in a play that I wrote, in a thing that I'm touring, I would do it, whatever it was. I would, and if I just had the budget to be yes, I can now happily play those songs and dance, wiggle and dance with an army of people in makeup and silver mirror dome face costumes. And also cartoon faces and also cartoon clown faces. It's profound, and it speaks this truth that really sort of made me weep. So I was weeping openly in a tearful, joyous way. because of multiple things I was realizing, that my body as a trained performance apparatus is annoyed that it's out of shape. It's like pissed at me for being out of shape, but it's also grateful that I'm not more out of shape than I actually am, because I'm not that out of shape, right? Like, I could be way worse. No offense. I'm not judging anybody but myself. But also it just was like full of passion, and it's like annoyance with my mental ego super judgment that without others I cannot do any of the performance art that I wish to do, which is, been part of my problem for the last however long it's been. But this song just smacked me across the face with inspiration and said, listen, you have a beautiful dance piece inside of you that only makes sense playing to the song. If they'll write a letter, record a podcast where you go, asterisk legal notification here. This is me asking permission from Kid Cudi for the just performance playing rights, so as in like a high school doing or not a high school, but like a university show or whatever it takes. I don't have any money, but I'll eventually, hopefully will. This song, Pursuit of Happiness, in parentheses, it next says Nightmare, and it's featuring MGMT and Rat-a-Tat. Never heard it before in my life, but my body wants to be on Broadway with lights and extras and a couch and my living room in a tiny tearaway set so that the character can fall into the universe while it dances this dance of... And I wish I'd been able to just record myself and treat that as a rehearsal hall. But sweating like bullets, both judging myself for doing this because I haven't... And I'm literally the jackass that has a clown face meme that says, I haven't listened in a really long time, but 3, 2, 4, and then the countdown and mini dance break. It's like, play some music and go dance. Like, I believe in that, right? And even if you, like the saying says, dance like no one's watching, because even if you're horrible, it's still good for you. If you feel the rhythm and your body's bouncing around, wiggling a little, and just doing intuitive shaky bits without it getting too crazy and without you hurting yourself and without anybody getting offended, etc., then it's probably good for you, I would argue. And that we don't do it, right? And that someday they're gonna, like, the day that we really know we're like being sheepled into tyranny is when that's not legal, even in our own homes. And God forbid, knock on wood, that day ever comes. But I also believe in myself in the way that, like, I think I could be with an ensemble of millions on stage somewhere with this crazy... I don't know, so I'm also falling apart, right? Because it never happened. Not anybody's fault but my own, that I didn't hustle harder in the crafting my own shit kind of way. But perhaps, whatever. As the mystics and the tarot card readers and the perpetual sort of optimists will tell you, all things come in whatever timing they come, right? Like, the timing is the timing. The next piece that came on is an older song from way back in the day, an album that I believe I own. I think is in like the back when I used to buy CDs. Yes, I'm old enough that I used to, go to the mall and shop for CDs and vinyl. Although I wish I still had like a vinyl collection and a player. I do not. That's the next thing. If I ever get some money thrown at me, I'm gonna get like an actual hi-fi set so that I can play things on vinyl and pretend that I'm a DJ on a fancy radio station that's got vinyl. But this song is a song that I've listened to 100 million times because it was really popular. It's still on the radio. If you listen to the radio in your cars, people who still do that, you will have heard this song probably. At least you have a shot at it, right? It's not so new, and in the future it'll be even older. But it's a song that again, from way back in the day, always wanted to do some sort of movement, dance, people expressing themselves, performance art piece. And one of the many things that my body is sort of like a puppeteer. Like I shoulda, coulda, woulda gone to University of Connecticut and worked in puppeteering. Not that I'm boasting. I don't brag, but it's something that's always been a fascination in a very meaningful real life way. And that it's like, like the film Being John Malkovich, it's like a sort of abstract performing arts thing that might always feel like it's dying away, but might also always feel like it's resurging. I don't know. Not that movie's all about puppeteering, but isn't he a puppeteer in the thing? Or am I confusing it with a different movie? Don't sue me for the movie references. Those are just social pop cultural references. And this second song came out as like this funny, weird puppet dance of both of my hands being like, why haven't we done a puppet show in 1,000 years, please? Kind of, let's just dance to this and be a puppet show kind of dance. With me trying to lip sync, which at one point in my life, I thought very seriously about like sitting down with the lyrics and whatever video of this song there is to try and nail that, because it's a thing that I'm good at, believe it or not. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot. And my hands are just like, they have a mind of their own sometimes. And it killed me. And I wanted to jot down all the moments as like choreography. The fact that it took me a bit to find the rhythm to certain things. The two together, I don't know why, they just make sense. They both make references to things that I have a relationship to that we can talk about for hours about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing and judge about. But the two of them are songs that magically evoke a performative, intuitive dance as if I were a genius dance choreographer, but I'm not. I'm just a weird puppet guy that dance theater nerd that never, clown, right? That never got as big as Blue Man Group. But coulda, shoulda, woulda, and might still yet, despite gracefully declining age. But maybe not, because I'm an asshat and I've probably fucked myself silly in terms of the way life works. Who knows? But for the purposes of this podcast and the sort of multi-layered creative process, I sat there sweating and thinking about doing this and thinking about having, I shoulda, woulda, coulda videotaped myself. Multiple things. One, writing the church story about the guy that just fell into it and did it perfectly and nailed it with the video cameras rolling and became virally famous and then got what he wanted. A building to rehearse and train an ensemble of people in to do crazy abstract, Vegas, big Vegas showy, clowny theater, dance, performance art stuff, with many special effects and whatnot, and contemporary music guests, etc., etc., etc. And also the really, really scary idea of taking the proposition seriously of carving out the time to rehearse these two songs daily with videotape rolling and discover what product I can create if I were to do that for X amount of time. And I didn't really have a time variable. My mind's still sort of rapping with it, like 1 week would be interesting. Clownzilla Troupe, when it first formed, don't sue me, Eli, for referencing this on the podcast. It's just a matter of historical fact. Clownzilla troupe, when it first formed, created its first show in, I think, 7 or 8 days of rehearsing. Like 4 or 5. We had first couple of really big hardcore days, and then we sort of tapered it out. But our rehearsals were like 4 hours long, I think, right, guys? Maybe less. 3 hours long, 2.5 hours, 4 hours, sometimes longer. And we cranked out a beautiful show that sort of had its own evolution over the next 6 years and moved people and was really quite powerful and visually stunning, I might add, for its minimalist appeal and its magic. And had deep potential, too, especially if we had a little bit of money thrown at us. Well, that's the sort of thing my body has been sitting around going, the fuck aren't you doing this for? I'm like, well, body, because nobody else wants to do it and give me money to do it, and also don't know how to ask people for money to do it, which is a silly thing to say out loud, because isn't that what they're supposed to teach you? No, they only taught me how to rehearse myself into existence. They didn't teach me how to then sell that product. I guess also maybe I haven't hustled it as hard as possible. But then again, I've got some stories. And I'm weaving a narrative too, so don't overjudge it. Don't overthink it. Whatever you hear on this podcast, know that it is truthy and that it is, I hope, factual. But also, it's being woven into a literary work of art that is fictional in nature. So it gets confusing in places. But I digress. The challenge of doing that now, setting aside backstory, origin story, this character was born in my mind because of these 2 songs playing on my phone device. And I don't currently, off the top of my head, remember what kind of phone device I have. I think it's an LG, whatever the fuck, something or another. Bless it, it's a badass one. These 2 tracks, like, pushed, elicited, drew out of me, knocked out of me, spiritually evoked from my body a little tiny rehearsal of performance that could become, an awesome TikTok video or an awesome YouTube video, I suppose. And arguably an interesting piece of theater once woven into larger structure and storytelling. But that's the way my brain and my body works creatively. And what I'm trying to archive is the notion of, like, spontaneity and how I've literally sat here for all of this time. It's 10 p.m., October 16th, a Friday. Any other year, arguably, I'd be judged a bit for staying in on a Friday, and or I'd be at work participating in professional theater that I'm not responsible for the creative content of, right? Because I was a technician in my day job at a professional theater, which I loved, absolutely profoundly loved, but had no creative outlet in or through in that regards. And all of the time that I have been away from that job, I've been stewing in the truly, fantastically normal human catharsis process, the human process of contemplating and processing one's own artistic conflict, etc., etc. And the question ultimately, and I saw this written on someone else's, I was stopped on an Instagram account recently of some actress that I recognized while scanning through Instagram, offering of like random things I might be interested in. And it's some actress that's been in some movies, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now, but she's, on Instagram and doing her own content, right? And doing interesting, quirky, weird videos of various styles and natures. And someone wrote as a comment on the one that I was looking at that time, get yourself on TikTok right away. Now, TikTok is a controversial topic for multiple reasons. And God knows what'll happen in the future. Put a pin in that. But, we can also put a pin in the entire lurid past of TikTok and where things are now with it. That could be a whole special episode. But it punched me in the gut that, if you look around, all the people like me are doing something to get by during this COVID-19 endurance long haul of what the fuckism, if I may coin a term. Because, it feels that to some people, it's like, fuck it, blow it off. And for some people, it's like, no, double down, batten down the hatches, and, process your emotional pain. Because it's been a traumatic year, and it's just going to get weirder, and forget about it. Next year is even going to be weirder than that. And that one way or another, working from home is working from home. And creating content from home for people to consume and listen to and or watch is complicated and or hard and or easy, depending on what variables. And one that kicked me in my own petard, that I have been hoisted upon my own petard, to properly say the phrase. I was just sort of jamming it up there. Is that writer's block, creative block, all of that kind of block is about drowning in the questions of where to start and how to do it. And the one thing I know is that, my body sort of knows how to answer those questions when certain parameters are fulfilled. And that I don't need to. And then, ideas flow. And, I've been a fool for not creating my own performance studio. Although, I guess, technically, I sort of have. And I've just been hibernating. But, wow. There was a lightning strike of, dare I use the word, inspiration today. And I confronted the question right away, what do I do? I don't actually have the rights to either of these two songs, which are Dare from Gorillaz and Feel Good Inc. from the Gorillaz. It's not the Gorillaz, it's just Gorillaz. And they're genius, and I love them, and I sort of love-hated them the moment they came out because they were doing something I wanted to do, which was make music and then present the band itself as fictional characters, right? They're cartoon characters, and then their videos are just abstract cartoon character madness. That's the kind of work I want to do. And I just don't have a band, and I don't have a studio, and I don't have an animation studio behind me, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm trying to be all the things, because you're supposed to be the thing. And it's slowly pretending to come together, I suppose. But these two pieces of music, Pursuit of Happiness, parentheses, Nightmare, featuring MGT and Rat-Tat by Kid Cudi, and Feel Good Inc. by Gorillaz, makes me want to movement. Makes me... right? Because I don't want to say dance, but it makes me want to do wild, trippy, as if they hired me to do the music video, dance, performance, art design, and I created a trippy, weird performance show. But it's just me, and they didn't hire me. But it's because the music demands it. I can't not do it. It came on, and I was possessed. And I don't believe in demons. I do believe in daemons, however you pronounce the alternate word, which is a whole nother episode. Put pins in that. There's a comic already for that. Just saw recently on the interwebs. And I'll stop rambling about it. But I am curious how to go about, because I threw myself the theoretical gauntlet. Rehearse this for a week, motherfucker. If nothing else, you'll get ripped, because it was a workout. I was sweating bullets and my abs hurt. And I'm my abs hurt in that oh God, did I just go to the gym kind of way? And because And it's funny because it's like a silly, weird thing that might mean nothing, that people might watch. Like if I had recorded what I did today, I might just be a laughingstock on the internet. But I felt joy doing it, and it felt like the kind of thing that with production value and an army of of dancers and special effects, it would be a whole other monstrous thing. But if I just did it by myself, that I think it would still be interesting and engaging, and people would be like, what the fuck is that? Why is he wailing around like that? What kind of story is he trying to tell? And that I could ultimately feel the beginnings of a story to tell anchored around these two things being back to back, in terms of my body performing something and then needing to wrap ideas around that. I think if I had the financing and the facilities, I would do that every day, all day long, with as many people as that were willing, and it would churn out interesting, weird content all the time. And if I had a band and a person who could write music, for me on my behalf, with my input and their own genius, of course, combined, because that's what I trained to be and what I failed to become. But the point is, these are all the motivating things I wanted to capture for creating a character in a short story series of a character that does this and sort of bootstraps themselves into stardom and gets everything they could ever ask for, and then lives a troubled life, and then sort of becomes the sort of expected trope of roller coaster. I'm deeply inspired, if I may be, by all the archetypes, all the famous good ones that sort of lived a rough life, and from names fail because I'm in that sort of flow state where like names are not important right now, just keep going. Also, I don't want to get sued by anybody. But there's documentaries out there, right? Like you get that we've also got fictional movies of this sort of archetype of the from rags to riches to rags again, sort of stardom fame, but with the Zeppo twist, the Zeppo multiverse twist. Because one of the things that was trippy about being in that space with this music and these songs was that I felt like transcendentally, multiversically, like army strong. And that's language that may not make sense to anybody until they listen to the other episode of my podcast where I explain my particular weirdo twist on the many multiverse theories and how I think they actually work in transcendental, cosmic, spiritual ways, and how we're supposed to tap into them. And why does that work with random songs that, I don't know, because of my theater nerdiness, I suppose. But I must now stare my own dare in the face like a man, with someone else's like gun in his face. Will I rehearse at gunpoint, under duress and coercion from my own hubris, this potential product that I have no right to like create in terms of getting the audio rights, but that I could probably get away with doing, I suppose, because TikTok, I don't know, and I'd have to look into it. If I do, will I go the crazy level that I saw in my mind? Because I saw layers, and that includes, magical layers of pretending that it's going to be just me. And here's a secret that shouldn't go out until, if I haven't made it yet, don't let this spread too far. But I'd love to recruit, like I would call up some like musician and dance, body movement friends and be like, hey, let's make this video where it sort of starts off like a solo act, but really we have all these bodies to do all this impossible stuff, kind of level of shits and giggles. Or will I laugh that off and proceed not to be able to create for the rest of 2020? That's the question. And on that note, with a parched throat and a dying voice, I will leave it at that. That's why this show has been so intermittent lately. That's why my own day-to-day life has been so abstract and bizarre, and I've been exploring the depths of these questions on many fronts and on many levels, but also abjectly doing almost absolutely nothing besides documenting, the thoughts behind the thoughts, if that even makes sense, and trying to observe enough about what seems to be going on around us to try to figure out what may or may not happen next, and have a way to make commentary about it in sort of like a sci-fi futurism sort of way, if I can call myself a futurist. On that note, the robots are coming. Brace yourselves. But in the meantime, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart. Thanks for tuning in to whatever the fuck this was. I'm about to lose my voice, so I'm going to stop talking. Peace out.